Welcome into the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Royden Ogletree. And yes, we are sitting far apart from each other. We're doing this. We tried this now, because I didn't like the side profile. Plus, I was craning my neck to see the TV. And, so here we are. Just a quick explanation on why I am decked out in fan gear. Garrett is decked out in fan gear. This is the only weekend this year that Florida State, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and LSU have all won games. And it's the only weekend that it can possibly happen because LSU and Oklahoma play on Saturday, which in most years would be must-watch TV. This year is if it's on during the second family gathering.
Right.
Like you've been Thursday, you then like you have a thing on Friday, and then like Saturday is like, oh yeah, I gotta go to my stepmom's today. Like that's
what's up, Frank? Anyway, Oklahoma, Nebraska is on.
Yeah, exactly. So Emery told me that I'm putting off real big divorced dad energy in this outfit. And look, if you turn the hat around, I have a very drummer in a garage band kind of vibe, like
man that has hung around college campus way too long.
Yeah, it's like, hey kids,
yeah,
you guys hang out, play PlayStation, whatever. You want to hang up with band practice? Like, hey, your Uncle Royden's here. Say hey to him.
Sup?
Yeah,
I don't want to be here.
Like, we're just gonna rip out some sick tunes for a minute.
Yeah. Mom, Dad's playing in the band with that weird guy again.
Yeah. So that's the vibe I'm going for with the FSU Hawaiian shirt and then the the backwards hat, which actually like here's the other problem. And Craig deals with this every day, but when you have the hat on, like you can't see my face. So now I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do the whole show backwards hat Paul.
Okay, I'll do it in solidarity.
Yeah, and we'll just see if this vibe. Oh my God, that's terrible. That is terrible.
It's like sideways. Yo,
yeah. I was going like late '90s, white hip hop fan.
You're like Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire when he does like the rap for his kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely.
My name is Paul, and I'm here to say,
yeah,
FSU won this weekend in a big way.
Yeah, against the absolute, and I've said it yesterday, the absolute worst team I've ever seen in my life.
I was so disconnected this weekend. Besides the Baylor matchup, maybe the Oklahoma-Alabama game, but like what? Wait, what was the score? What happened?
They won. They covered. They had a 33.5 point spread, and they covered. They hadn't scored 33 points all year. If there was a team that could have actually scored a half point, it was definitely Florida State's offense. Like if you
figured it out,
they would have been like, look, we can give you a half point. We're not going to give you all of it.
Who did they play?
So they played Charleston Southern.
Oh,
oof. Yeah. the Charleston Southern broken leg amputees. Like that's
their other leg is broken.
Yeah. One leg gone, the other one broken. That's basically how they won that game. Yeah, it was, and
look,
and,
get right game, man. It's all uphill from here.
Yeah. It is yes. They have to play the suddenly attractive to recruits Florida Gators.
Mm-hmm. Crazy, right?
Yeah, so they have flipped, I think, 4 people alone from FSU to Florida. 4 that were top 300 recruits. And you want to know, like, the weirdest way – we're going to talk about Mack Brown in a second because he got fired today.
Yeah.
But the weirdest way to keep your job ever has to be Billy Napier.
We were burying him. He was done.
Done. And look, credit to him for rallying the team. They've only lost one game with DJ Lagway as the starter, which
who could have seen that coming?
Well, I mean, we talked about it here. Royd and all of us was like, hey, what do you have to lose, man? Like, Go ahead. And this is nothing against Graham Mertz, but, Graham Mertz, the Cowboys have Cooper Rush right now at quarterback, right? So Cooper Rush will win a game every now and again, but he's not helping you win. And like Cowboy fans, when Cooper had to start a couple years ago when Dak was hurt, and they're like, oh, well, I mean, he's playing better than Dak was. Like, well, he played the worst part of the schedule, A, and B, their defense is really good, and they just weren't getting beat. So that's what Graham Mertz was. It's like he was not going to get you beat, but he also wasn't going to help you win.
Graham Mertz is TJ Yates. Like, it's like the idea that in order to save my job, I'm going to start, no offense to Graham Mertz, I guess a little offense, career NFL backup, Graham Mertz, instead of the 5-star dual threat quarterback that I signed to essentially save my job. We're gonna split snaps with those guys.
Yeah.
That's gonna work.
So all this was happening.
Lo and behold, it didn't. It took another injury to.
All this was happening at the beginning of the year. Then here's the timeline as I see it. Ben Sass, the president of the university, has to retire and leave, which was initially because, well, my wife's having health problems, and apparently her health problems where we can't grift money from the university anymore. They've caught us. I don't know if she's having health problems or not, but that was Ben Sass's problem. Was they were like spending exorbitant amounts of money and these lavish kind of get-togethers and different things and travel and all that. He said he had to spend money to make money, fundraising wise.
Good work if you can get it.
And the university was like, no, you got to go. And so then you get to the. So he's out. So you got an interim president. Then Graham Mertz, like the same week, gets hurt. So DJ Lagway has to start. So then you have, okay, well, this is the future. The fans are maybe going to get a little excited about this. But they were splitting snaps until Graham Mertz got hurt, and then it forced it into the situation. So these two things, one of them, Billy Napier knew directly maybe would help him in that DJ Lagway is going to play, and people will see, and maybe that'll help buoy it. Then also, you've got the president leaving, so now you're having an interim president. Well, the interim president is probably not going to want to fire a football coach or fire an AD because then you're saddling the next president with making that
with that hire.
So again, there's that. Throw on top of that the House settlement in that you don't really know how much money you're going to have for a coaching staff altogether, and then having to pay a $26 to $40 million buyout all in for everybody on the staff is pretty expensive. So you've got that weighing over you anyway. Then your basketball coach gets accused of aggravated stalking. You haven't suspended him yet, though, so that's super interesting.
When did this happen?
About 3 weeks ago.
About a couple weeks back.
Yeah, a couple weeks back. Todd Golden.
Still lurking on campus.
Yeah,
yikes,
accused of aggravated stalking. Now, accused, we say accused. He's been accused, not found guilty or anything yet. They have not suspended him from the team yet, which I don't understand at all. But so that's there. So now your AD, who most people think highly of, but has not had a good run with football in particular, and already had to, lost a basketball coach and had to hire Todd Golden. All that's already happened under Scott Strickland's watch. Then they actually do start winning games, and some of the teams that looked pretty daunting on the schedule actually wound up sucking. They're not good. Or they're just as good as Florida. And then you get a huge, the AD is like, look, he's coming back. It buoys the spirits of everybody. The recruits that were like, okay, I'm between Florida and Florida State. Well, Florida State's in the toilet. And you're just like,
hanging around.
They're just hanging around. They're not doing anything great. They beat Ole Miss, and all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, woohoo.
They're the turd that doesn't go down.
Gator Bay. And it's like, what are you doing? This is the confluence of events, the weirdest thing that have ever saved a guy's job. And I'm not saying that Billy Napier doesn't deserve another chance. If you look at the way that they played the last couple weeks, maybe there's something there. But early on, it looked like a disaster. Royden, my mind is blown at how this turned out.
Well, especially you come into the year, with revenge on your mind if you're Florida State and shot like a bat out of hell trying to buoy the spirits of the Tallahassee faithful, and you lose overseas, and you lose in front of God and the Catholic Church and everyone over in Ireland.
Yeah,
and that's tough beat, especially to Georgia Tech, who's fine.
They're 7-4.
Yeah, they're good. They're fine. Yeah. Okay, well, it can't all be that bad. Like Georgia Tech's got some players. They're on the upswing. They're pretty good. And then it just wasn't. And I don't know, man. And to me, this may sound disparaging, but I promise the analogy works. You mentioned flushing them down. It's like they're the turd that doesn't go down on the first flush. Yeah. They're just kind of like hanging around.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, well, maybe I need to call a plumber, or is this stuck, or is this going to go away? Anyway, yeah. But flipping the recruits from Florida State to Florida, I mean, when's the last time that happened? Like,
I mean, it's been about 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, be honest. Like, they were both, like, all three programs were, like, in a nosedive at the same time. And then Florida State, like, pulled up out of it, and they're up, and they're like, all right, we're doing it.
Mountain.
And then, and woo, they go, and they're doing great. And then last year on December the 5th, they started in a nosedive again, just a little slower than we all realized. Until now, they're barely above the ground.
Yeah.
Miami has taken their spot, and Florida's the one who's like, hey, whoa, hey. So, yeah, nothing makes sense. And look, here's the thing. The three programs in Florida, the glory days of the state of Florida, I think the entire state in history were the 90s. All the football teams were good. You know, all the college football teams were good. Like there weren't, like you didn't used to hear, like they existed, but nobody really knew it unless you read a Carl Hiaasen book that there were like weird, like people that did weird things in Florida. But then like Florida Man happened and everybody's like figured out how this is how it is. But like nobody knew that. You thought three great football teams, Disney World, Miami, this sounds beaches, great. Yeah. Like that was the pinnacle. After that happened, after social media happened,
cocaine,
the shimmer on Florida was gone. It was just gone.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know. I still am not completely sold that Billy Napier is going to be the savior of whatever, of Florida, but starting with getting good recruits and look, a great quarterback will save your life. Let me tell you about it. It will take you a long way. It'll build you a new stadium over on MLK over there.
Yes, it will.
So I think finally realizing and biting the bullet and starting DJ Lagway and letting him go and make plays, and then a lot of recruits will come play for. You see it in the NFL. A lot of like free agents will go play for somebody they assume is a great quarterback. Like. A lot of recruits will go play for somebody that they think will help them win or boost their profile. And regardless of what we think, Florida, still a big profile,
it's
one of the biggest.
Fantastic.
Anyway, all that to transition into our Big 12 versus SEC parity conversation, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll get that in a second. Of course, the big news of the day in college football is Mack Brown's been fired. North Carolina.
Something we said wasn't going to happen because he was just going to retire.
Yeah, well then, he said he wasn't going to retire. And then the university's like, we like the first idea better. And they let him go. And look, he's in his 70s. I think it's clear that he doesn't have all the pitches in his arsenal anymore.
No.
And things are changing. How settlement be damned for North Carolina. They really kind of have to point things in the right direction. Now, I've seen some hot boards already across the college football media landscape. Dan Mullen, John Sumrall. Like, I'll give you mine of who should get a good look. I think John Sumrall at Tulane should get a good look. I think Jamie Chadwell.
It's only his first year at Tulane.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll bounce?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to bother him.
Okay.
I think that Jamie Chadwell, even though this is, Liberty's lost 2 games, I think Jamie Chadwell deserves a look. He's done all of his winning in the Carolinas and Virginia. Okay, and allegedly the thing that's holding him back is he's never been at the FBS level. Well, it's because you people have never hired him, and when he was at the other levels, all he did was kick everybody's ass. So, are you waiting for him to get to like Kalen DeBoer went to Fresno State, so it's not like Fresno State was a power job, and like he's never been at that, Power 4 job. Well, he's not going to get one until somebody gives it to him. So to me, I think you'd benefit by having a guy like Jamie Chadwell, who also, I don't think, like, good thing about Mack Brown at North Carolina is, and I think he understood this, is that while they really like football, but they love basketball. Mm-hmm. Jamie Chadwell is a guy who will understand that and recruit well in it. Mack understood that. I don't know how many coaches really can jump into that world, football coaches, and be like, okay, well, I know that I'm second fiddle here. Lance Leipold does he's all going to be on the show later. He does a great job at Kansas of building the groundswell without having to like do what John Calipari did and crap all over his football coach, like in reverse. So yeah, I think John Summerall deserves a look. I am intrigued by Dan Mullen as a candidate there.
His name was being thrown out for any job that was like, people were vying that maybe, would he get the Baylor job if all of a sudden things turned around? I think you can go worse. People forget how good he actually was at Florida. I think Florida was so obsessed with moving on to being Florida under Urban Meyer that, they kind of forgot that winning 10 games is really cool and good. Yeah. And most programs don't, in fact.
Well, and I think Dan Mullen did get a little exhausted by the recruiting.
Right, how big the recruiting is in the SEC and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was a really good coach. He was a really good coach at Mississippi State, and, they've had varying degrees of success since he left there as well, too. And, and you've seen how good or bad that Florida has been since he left as well. There is there's like a low ceiling, high floor. He's that kind of coach with Dan Mullen. I feel like you'll always win 7 games. Now, the last season in Florida, notwithstanding, I think he only won like 5 then. I might be wrong. But he's like, he'll get you 7 wins. And then occasionally you'll reel off 10, 11 wins. And that's kind of what I think North Carolina is sort of expecting from their football program. Now, they'd love to be up there with NC State. Isn't there this year, but they've had really good success at NC State. Yeah. They'd love to be up there with the Clemsons and so on. But, that would be a good hire to me. I was thinking just because of that area and so on, like Appalachian State, but who am I forgetting? Oh, Sean Clark.
Yeah.
But they haven't had a really great year this year, so I don't know. That could be one.
Yeah. Look, here's one I'll tell you. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis deserves a look at a big-time job. And who am I forgetting?
Larry Fedora.
Larry Fedora was
Bring him back.
Bring him back. Barry Odom at UNLV. Andy Kotelnicki, might want to give him a look. He's going to be a head coach soon. So I don't know. Like,
you think if things fall off the wagon here really badly for Kingsbury at Washington, if that defense continues to crap out, if he'll come back to college?
I don't know what his
deal is.
His deal is. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see.
People may scoff at that, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think people will jump at the opportunity to make him a head coach again.
I see people saying Matt Campbell, it would be one to watch. Garrett Riley at Clemson, probably not. I like Jason Candle at Toledo. I think that he deserves the shot. He's been really good there. So there's a lot of people that you could throw out there. I'm looking at top 5. Like John Summerall is on everybody's list, and if it were me and I had to, if we could do a top 5, and maybe if there's not one by Monday, when I'll do another top 5 or Tuesday, I'll do top 5, and the people I would call honestly for this job are Jamie Chadwell, John Summerall, Dan Mullen, Jason Candle, and Barry Odom. Like, those are the people I would call for sure. But
I'm so shocked that they just straight up were like, nah, you're done before the end of the season.
I think I mean, like,
What are they salvaging, though?
Yeah, they're not salvaging anything. And now
Let the guy retire.
Yeah, they got it.
He's old. Let him go home.
Yeah. They could, but here's the thing. He could have, knowing this was maybe going to happen, or maybe he was trying to force their hand when it came to the contract. Like, that's probably why he did it. Like, no, you're going to have to pay me the buyout.
Right.
I'm not going to retire. So, good move for, generations of Browns.
Again, the best job in the world is a fired head football coach. It's incredible work.
Yeah.
But none of these guys want to stay fired. That's the whole problem.
No, Ed Orgeron's the one who's figured it out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Ed Orgeron's the one who's figured it out. If it were me, if you gave me any job and gave me $40 million to go away, I would not do anything in that field.
It's so crazy because then, like, don't you void your buyout? Like, I know the NFL, I think, still has to pay out on your buyout if you go to another team. But I think in colleges, if you get another job, that either void your buyout or they have to pay that buyout back somehow or another to that school. I'm not quite
I mean,
sure.
like, it's all like prorated, something like that. So,
but like, you're still not seeing that extra money that you would have gotten had you not taken the job.
yeah.
And granted, you get the other job, so you get that money, so on. But it's like, if you get fired from a big time school, like say today, if throw out a name, Ryan Day got fired.
Yeah.
But then Ryan Day somehow pops up at, North Carolina A&T, whatever. That's too big of a drop. I get it. Just saying, like, they can't pay him what his salary was. But all of a sudden, he's making that salary instead of making the $10 million that he was making from Ohio State, right?
What they do is, like, they'll sign him to a contract that's below a threshold.
Yeah.
And then he just has to give back the difference.
Right.
So, or they basically give back the difference. So, if Ryan Day gets fired at Ohio State and goes to North Carolina will hire him for $2 million, and then they're $8 million. Like, then it's like only $6 million have to do with it. It's
way too complicated. But my whole thing of it, like, you would not hear from me for 5 more years.
No.
I'll pop back up. I'll be a little older and a little grayer, and then hopefully somebody would take me on because of previous success. But I would be out of the spotlight.
I'm just telling you, out of the spotlight, I would just be done.
Yeah, just done.
Like, there's no way you could get me. My dad.
I mean, I got to go back to going to kids' houses and recruiting and pitching our. Ugh, no thanks.
I know that you have to, you have to keep going, to do that. But my dad, and it was tough. He forever, we kind of like wrestle with him of like, you need to just like chill out. Like, you're retired, you had good money, like just chill. And then one day he's like, I went to the doctor. I got some bad news about my eyes. And I was like, what? And he goes, I got rectal blindness. I said, what's that? He goes, I can never see my ass going back to work. And I was like, there you go, buddy.
Hey.
Finally got it.
Rectal blindness.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, Dad, what is rectal blindness?
I don't even want to continue down this path.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let that one sail on by. There it goes.
Much of my childhood was spent the same way.
Right.
Just gonna let that one go. When we come back,